Yes, guys, what's happening? And welcome back to the channel and welcome to tonight's live stream, Chelsea versus Tottenham match reaction and player ratings. But before we get into that, please make sure you do smash like on this video and please do click that subscribe button. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button. We're on the road to 300 subscribers by the end of this month, 29 to go. So please do help us out with that. But George, with poor form, recently hindering us, 3 wins in the last 11 in the league. A game against Tottenham Hotspur is exactly what you need. And true to form, they turned up and offered absolutely nothing. And we ran out 2-0 winners without really ever having to hit top gear this evening. Third win in the space of 3 weeks against them, clean sheet in all those games as well. It was exactly what we needed, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the fourth time we've beaten them this season, I think 3 in the last month, and they're almost the team you want to play in moments like this because form-wise, they just don't turn up at the Bridge, do they? I've seen the same performance from Tottenham at Stamford Bridge every single season, which, yeah, it worked well for us. I think we knew what we were going to get. They were going to try and frustrate us, try and be a low block and make it difficult for Chelsea to break them down, which had some success. I think we created a lot more chances than we have in previous games. But yeah, once the goal goes in, it's a different game for Spurs. Obviously, there were turning points in the match which could have made it a different outlook, but we got the job done. I think we definitely weren't in fourth or fifth gear. I'd probably say third. And luckily, because of the way that the game went, we managed to control the game. But trying not to be too negative because again, I thought the performance was a bit. Still issues there, but I think getting the win, clean sheet, it's a lot of positives to take from a very dreadful run of form, really, from Chelsea.
I mean, it's 4 wins against Tottenham this season and 4 clean sheets. We also inflict Antonio Conte's first defeat in the Premier League as Spurs manager on him as well. So, it rounds off a good day. And it's a win that we needed, George. We're very much in a race for the top 4 at the moment. And with Man United winning this weekend, a chance to put more points between us and Tottenham, who are very much in the race for the top 4. I think they still got games in hand anyway, so they could go level on points or potentially ahead of us if they win all of those games. It was vital that we, put our poor form to bed and got a win, which we duly did. We saw a change in formation today. We've seen the 3-4-3 employed, we've seen the 4-2-2 employed. This very much looked like a 4-3-3. Before I get your thoughts on that, what did you think of the starting lineup? Because, obviously against Brighton, we were awful. And then Thomas Tuchel picks the same 4 attackers in Mason Mount, Hakim Ziyech, Lukaku, and Callum Hudson-Odoi to start in this game. I know people have been calling for continuity in the front line with selections. I think we've only seen the same forward line in 2 games this season. I think Tuchel's still finding it out. What did you think of the fact that those 4 started?
Well, it doesn't say much, but I think probably if you look form-wise, those are the players that need to play because Pulisic and Timo are the ones who miss out and Havertz, but they've been worse than those guys that started today. Ziyech would start after his goal against Brighton. He was probably the brighter man of that game. We've already discussed on the channel, haven't we, about persisting with Lukaku despite his poor run of form and his poor performances. He was always going to be the central man today. I was happy to see the inclusion of Mason Mount. I know people have been critical, as have we, about his performances of late. But in a game, in a London derby, you need that aggression and that intensity, and he brings that, even if his performances aren't up to par at times. And Hudson Odoi is one of those who, he's talented and he likes to take on players and offers that bit more of a risk-taking ability that we lack at the moment. So I was quite happy with the front line in this match. I just thought, again, maybe just lacked creativity in the wide areas and midfield, which is where it's been most of our problems this season. But I was actually quite happy with the lineup.
Yeah, no, I was as well. And people have been calling for continuity in the front line with selections from Thomas Tuchel, and then we get continuity, and then people are moaning because why are those guys getting picked again because they've played so badly? So you can't win as a manager. You pick something, I should have picked him. You pick another something, I should have been these guys. So, but as we said many times, we fully back the manager, and if that's what he thinks is right for the game, then we roll with it. Another interesting selection, also Malang Sarr on his 23rd birthday, actually, playing at left back ahead of Marcus Alonso. For me, not surprising, in a back four, Alonso at best is suspect. He's not been in good form this season. So, George, do you think that's fully justified for Malang Sarr to be playing left back over Alonso in a back four?
Yeah, I think Sarr's impressed. He's physically up to the challenge. He offers that a bit more of a pace and awareness defensively. I think Alonso just needs a rest. Even if he's out of form, which he is at the moment, he is suspect defensively. They've got some very experienced quality players in that top three. Even though they missed Song today, they had Kane and Birdvine, who seems to be banging form. So I think it was the right call ultimately, and it was because we won the game. So I'm not surprised that Alonso was given a well-earned rest, and Sarr coped well today. So yeah, I was again happy with that.
And in terms of this system, George, we've seen four at the back quite a few recent games actually. I'm of the opinion that perhaps Thomas Tuchel is going to deploy this until Reece James and Ben Chilwell are fit again. That maybe he's going to continue to go with the four at the back. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think once they come back we could still see it? Because at the moment, I just think with Alonso and Azpilicueta, we can't continue with a three at the back. Well, in certain games potentially we can, but for a sustained period of time, I just don't think we can go three at the back with those two as wing backs. So, do you feel that this could be here to stay until those guys are fit again?
Yeah, it's the issue in terms of selection, because we said we don't want to see Azpilicueta in that right back position. But if you move him into a central area where he's probably more suited, we just don't have the cover for James on that right hand side. You'd have to play essentially Hudson Odoi, or someone else who's not an out right back playing in a wing back or right back role, which just doesn't suit us. So I think, and look, it's worked today. I think you've got to keep it on the evidence of today. The performance could have been better, but we've kept a clean sheet and won a game against a top six side 2-0. So I think he's got to look at that and think, well, we need to be able to adapt, and this is probably the solution. So I think as much as we need continuity in the front line, we also need it at the back. So I think that's a good option going forward, to be honest with you.
I mean, I've got to be honest, I quite liked it today. Again, it's important not to get carried away. Tottenham were awful. Literally hardly had any opportunities at all. Didn't look very threatening whatsoever. So there will be tougher tests if we persist with this system for the next few weeks. We've obviously got no game until February 5th now, where we face Plymouth in the FA Cup. I think the players are getting a week off now as well, which is much needed considering we've been the busiest in terms of playing schedule over December, start of January. None of our games getting called off at all. So I think that's gonna really help us benefit. And I think, George, we also saw the benefits, mate, of having 2 days off after the Brighton game to have a complete rest for the players. And the intensity from the off today looked much better. I know it dipped off at times, but were you pleased to see a more intense approach, certainly from the off against Tottenham today?
We need it. I mean, if you can't get yourself up for a London derby, what can you? It's probably the perfect game on the back of a disappointing result, because it's an easy one to get up for, and we lack that. We lack intensity, not just through transitional play, but obviously in the game itself. Just that high press, that attitude to want to win the ball in those 50-50 duels, and we showed that today. We showed a bit of aggression, a bit of a meanness about us, which I think evidently, as fans know, that Tottenham sometimes or almost always lack in big games, where they lack that grit. I mean, I know Jose said it very iconically that they're not nasty enough, and Chelsea offered that today. So yeah, that's again, those are the expectations you need to set in those games. You need to just be at it and go for it, and meet the ball, and just be a bit more intense is the word. So I was much more happy with that in terms of this game today.
Thomas Tuchel just saying, kind of now in the last few minutes in his post-match press conference. We were working extremely hard for it, and it was a tough match. The effort was outstanding, and it was a deserved win. It is so hard to create chances against them, but we were relentless and kept on believing. I think that's a pretty fair appraisal. We did throw a lot at it. George, that first half, again, as much as we were dominant, and Spurs, we'll get onto the main talking point of that first half with the Harry Kane disallowed goal shortly. We started pretty well. Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech were causing all sorts of problems, interchanging. It looked like Jorginho as a single six, holding with Kovacic and Mount deployed further forward in the number 8s. But Mount was really more of a 10, I felt, today. Him and Ziyech causing a lot of problems interchanging. And do you think, George, that nowadays, obviously not a lot of teams play an out-and-out number 9. It's quite important to have that fluid interchange between the forward players, particularly if you're playing a 9, have that interchange between those players that are floating in and around behind.
Yeah, we need that, and we've lacked that. And I think Mount's better in that 10 role. I know he started out wide, but he started to drift in, and they started to interchange nicely. And I just think we lack those players in the pockets where we have areas outside the box that are quite dangerous at either delivering or just having a shot on goal, or even just playing that killer pass through to the number 9. And we know that Lukaku, as much as his performance hasn't been great, the service hasn't been great either. And the service was much better today from a particular individual in Hakim Ziyech that we will come on to. But even Hudson Odoi, I thought was good at 1-on-1 with Tanganga, made it difficult for him. So yeah, I think you need that interchangeability in those pockets, and Chelsea just lack that intensity and that ability to show that at times. But today we were definitely more promising in those areas. So that was a good thing, I thought, today.
Yeah, I mean, there was a half chance pretty early doors, like first couple of minutes. Lukaku with a half opportunity, obviously puts it over. First half, not a lot. I mean, there's an opportunity where I can't remember who it is, gets to the byline, puts it in, and Lukaku obviously misses his kick. Not ideal, but he was getting in the positions. And I felt today he worked a lot harder. And obviously towards the end of the game, as it opened up and Spurs went for it a bit more, he was a lot more involved. I thought he was pinning the centre-backs back nicely. And he was more involved, And given what we've seen from him in the last few weeks, I felt this was a lot better. But let's get on to kind of the main talking points of the first half, George. I just wanted to get your thoughts quickly on a tackle from Matt Doherty on Malang Sarr. Looked fairly innocuous watching it on TV. You see it back. That's a real nasty one. He's late. It's a bit of an ankle breaker. I'm not necessarily saying it's a red card, but to not even get a foul was a bit of an odd one.
It's been a weekend of terrible refereeing decisions, and I have to say, for that not to be a foul is outrageous. I don't think it was a red. I agree. It's late, and to be fair, you could probably see those given as a red, but to not produce a card, okay, I could probably see past that, but to not even give a foul for that, I honestly, I mean, the refereing decisions this weekend have been outrageous across the board, but that was an alarming one for me. I mean, what do you have to do to get a foul?
Yeah, I don't know. And in a weekend where refereeing decisions have been under the microscope again, we had a terrible penalty decision in the Liverpool Crystal Palace game, and they've been littered throughout the whole season. And the standard of officiating is honestly dreadful in this league. It's so bad. We get to the main talking point, George, of that first half. Tottenham, having not done anything whatsoever in the game at all, very much came set up 4-4-2. 2 banks of 4, just try and sit low block, soak up pressure, try and frustrate us, and see if they can get something on the break or from a set piece. And they very nearly got something. Harry Kane drops off Thiago Silva. It's a very innocuous kind of shove in the back, not enough to send a grown man down, but Thiago Silva, using all his age and experience, to puts himself down slightly theatrically. And he gets a decision from obviously it goes to the VAR. He gives them a decision to make. But George, we very much got away with one there, didn't we? I mean, personally, I feel we got away with it. Some people saying it's a definite foul. For me, I think we are very, very lucky.
Yeah, and the way the game was going, I think that moment right there determines not the outcome necessarily, but it changes the match significantly, because from that point, Spurs were doing exactly what they were supposed to do, frustrating Chelsea. Take their chance, they get their one opportunity, they take it, and from there the pressure starts to mount. The crowd would start to get against us, and I agree with you. I think Thiago Silva's used his experience there. It's what they like to say a European foul. I think if you see that in Champions League, it's a foul. But I tell you what, it's almost like it's similar to those ones where players go down and they clutch the ball with their hands. The referees have to give a foul because otherwise it's handball. They're almost too scared to give a brave call like that and say, actually, he hasn't pushed him. He's just fallen over like a tit and he's trying to win a foul when it's play on. And referees just feel like if someone goes theatrically to the floor, he can't give it because the crowd will just go against him. I really do feel referees bottle those decisions. And I mean, he's just gone down with hardly any contact whatsoever. And I think he's just done it because he knows that if he goes down inside the box as theatrically as he does, he's going to get the foul
looked at,
because it looks outrageous if the referee almost doesn't give it. So yeah, I think we're very fortunate there. It's not a foul for me.
I mean, as I said, that could completely change the context of the whole game if we go in at the break 1-0 down. But I mean, just a quick word on that. I don't want to get too bogged down in the standard of officiating. But, the thoughts that if you do give that as a goal, it's more likely to not get given when the VAR looks back. I mean, some of these things are ridiculous, that if you don't give it, if you give it, then they'll look at it and they'll probably reverse that decision. Like, it doesn't seem to me that the VAR is actually really helping the on-field referees at all at the moment, because without VAR, that would have been given as a foul, and that would have been it. And you can almost understand, like, when you've got a split second as a referee to make a decision, it's very difficult to see. Referees get dogs abuse, from fans and managers, etc., players alike. It's a bloody tough job, and you can understand in the heat of the moment sort of missing certain things. But what you cannot excuse is so-called professional referees sitting wherever they're sitting, watching these things back, and still getting it wrong. I mean, what are your thoughts on just the standard of officiating in general in this country? Because it's widely regarded we've got the best kind of product in the world in the Premier League, some of the best players, some of the best managers. We've got the worst officials. It's Sunday League level. I mean, what do you think is going on with the standard of officiating?
Well, if anyone's watched the African Cup of Nations, I think it's safe to say we definitely haven't got the worst, but we're close to. It's woeful, isn't it? And I know they get a lot of stick, and there's a lot of scrutiny with officials because they can't do any right, because whatever decision they make goes against one team. So there's always going to be someone in the crowd or someone at home saying, "Oh, that's never a pen." But I mean, now they've got the support and the chance to look at it, and like you said, those referees who are sitting from afar, they haven't got the pressure of the crowd or anything in the moment. They can watch it back as many times as they like, make a mutual decision. I just cannot believe that they've still looked at that and thought, "Oh yeah, he's definitely." I mean, okay, you can take that he has put his hand on Thiago Silva's back, but again, is that enough to push a grown man over? You've just got to use your common sense in those types of scenarios. And even the other one, the foul. Where's the foul for the challenge on Sarr? Why is that not looked at? And if it is, how have they not seen that that's a foul? I really just don't. I don't understand.
Yeah, because that was looked at.
It was looked at, and they decided that it wasn't.
There's nothing.
But what do they mean? So if they're saying it's a possible red card offence, does that mean that if it's not a red card, you just play on as normal, or is it?
Oh yeah, I presume so.
It's just ridiculous. Like, it's still a foul. I mean, use your common sense. It's still a foul, if not a yellow for that. Thiago Silva got a yellow card for literally just a late challenge, but he did exactly the same right after it, where he tried to get behind someone, pushed them to the floor. Could have easily been another booking, but again, just inconsistency across the board. It's awful. It's awful at the moment.
Yeah, it is terrible. I mean, ultimately, we go into the break at 0-0. I mean, George, that first half, what were your kind of overriding thoughts on it? I guess kind of dominated, really. But again, just kind of really when it mattered, the chances, we just weren't really making the most of them.
Yeah, I think as expected, you'd expect Spurs to be hard to break down. You'd expect Chelsea to dominate possession. Again, it was just frustrating to watch, because I just think you watch Liverpool and how City play, and it's 1-2 touch, and it's just too slow from Chelsea. Too many people taking too many touches, too many sideward passes that offer nothing. Too many times we get into good areas, and rather than delivering, which we did do more today, but we still, it comes to Azpilicueta, he'll cut it back, going back to the goal. It's just no risk taking, and you don't win matches by not risk taking. At the end of the day, playing safe. You might get the odd goal, but it doesn't win you football matches. So I was frustrated, but as expected, really, that first half. Yeah,
I think like a classic example of kind of the risk taking or trying to do something different. I felt in the first half, Hudson Odoi was so predictable every time he was going to be coming inside. The first time he actually went on the outside of Tanganga, he caused him all sorts of problems, got him on a booking, and then from there in, he just had him on toast. He was all over him. It was just little simple things like doing something different like that completely changed how Hudson Odoi played in that game, because I thought first half up until that point, he wasn't that great. But then from that moment onwards, once he had Tanganga on toast, it was like for the rest of the game, I thought he was very, very good. So it's just an example of those small little details making a big difference.
Oh, definitely. It's You've just got to, again, those 1-versus-1 situations where you can take on Tanganga on the outside. He's got the pace, he's got the quality, the technical skill to outdo Tanganga. Yes, Tanganga's also quick and physical, but it's just different things like, zipping the passes a bit quicker, having shots from outside the box if you've got the good angle on, getting those crosses. Now, and Ziyech, to be fair, did that. I mean, he did play some lovely crosses in during the first half as well. That lovely, he almost did like a diagonal ping right into the box that Lukaku nearly got a head onto. I think Sanchez defended it and went for a corner. And Ziyech had some good attempts outside the box.
I'm telling you, Ziyech, mate, is an absolute baller. Honestly, I haven't seen it that much, but like we were chatting about this earlier, like just over message, like. Mate, Ziyech is the best technician at the club. The guy's techers is unreal. Like, seriously, like the way he hits a football, some of the passes he hits. I know sometimes he looks a bit lightweight, sometimes doesn't look up for it, but the guy's technique is a joke. Like, he's so good with a football in terms of passing, in terms of crossing ability, etc. Like, I think if we can get him working, like with a Hakim Ziyech, Reece James link up potentially down that right hand side. Mate, that really could be something, but you've got to find it on a consistent basis. And we'll get to the goal now, George. How much of a difference does it make actually having someone that shoots from outside the box? Ziyech seems to be potentially the only one. Before we talk about the goal, just what are your thoughts on just having someone on the side that shoots from outside the box? Because constantly, we always see no one seems to take on a shot. They're always looking for that extra pass, almost like they're trying to pass it into the goal.
Well, I'm not being biased because I'm left-footed, but there is something special about certain left-footed players in attacking areas. They're actually quite, like Iron Robin, when he cuts inside on that left foot, there's just something different that right-footers don't do. I know, obviously, you've had David Beckham, all the rest of it. I know that there's not a lot of difference at that elite level, but there's just something unique about them. And Hakim Ziyech has got that ability where when he is on his left foot and he gets into an area just outside the box at an angle, he could produce something that he did produce today, which was absolutely brilliant. It's just doing it on a consistent basis. And the rest of his game, like we said, about him being more physical. But we just need more of those players to take on shots outside the box because that's what can happen. I'm not saying it happens all the time. And obviously, if you've got a better option, by all means, try and get it inside the box. But recently we have become too much like an Arsenal-type team that we're trying to get right to the bar line and cut it back, or just trying to be too cute with it when really, let's test the goalkeeper. If we get into good areas, have a shot on goal. You just never know what can happen. And with the players that we've got and the ability that they have, you will get moments like that. And
it's 2 in 2 games now for Hakim Ziyech from outside the box. It just goes to show what happens when you just take a shot on. But George, it's great work from Callum Hudson-Odoi down that left-hand side. He picks out Ziyech on the edge of the box. There's not really much he can do other than come inside and take the shot on. And there's only one place he can put it. And the accuracy to put it literally top bins, postage stamp, was unreal. And it's a great strike. But I know me and you slightly have a disagreement on this, that you feel that Lloris should do better. I think that's a little bit harsh.
Right. Firstly, what I'll say is we talk about risk taking, and that was a prime example. Callum Hudson-Odoi, rather than checking back like he always does and plays a square ball backwards to the left back, he's decided to take on a couple of players. Then he plays the crossfield ball instead of just going to the bar line. Then Hakim Ziyech takes a risk where rather than just playing to the right back on the overlap, he's decided to cut inside and actually have a shot outside the box. With the shot, I'm going to take the Roy Keane approach and just think, I'm not taking anything away from the shot. That's my first thing. What I'm saying is, as a left-footed player on that side, he's only going to put it in one area. So Hugo Lloris should be anticipating that and making that step early to the right. And actually, if you watch the flight of the ball from a different angle, it does start very centrally. But because his feet are so planted to the floor, he's almost given up on it as soon as it's left Ziyech's boot. And yeah, it does end up top bins, don't get me wrong. But I still think someone like a De Gea, maybe a Mendy, could be saving that. But it's all in the preparation. But look, I'm going to take nothing away from the strike because it's a wonderful finish. And like I said about left footers, I think that's what we talk about when taking the risk and something special. And he has that in his locker. And we just wish we see more of it because we've been in those areas before in lots of matches and we decide to play the safe option.
But I've got to be honest, I think he's, out of the attacking players, I think he's the only one that's actually got that technique in his locker and the ability to do that, to put it top bins like that, or to even take the shot on. I don't think anyone else in that position even takes that shot on for us. They really don't. it will just be played backwards or be played square again. So it's like, for me, Ziyech at the moment thoroughly deserves his place in the team. It's 3 games in a row he started. He's now got more Premier League goals this season than he did last season. I know it's 3 compared to 2. It's pretty low numbers, but at least he's improving, which is more than can be said for quite a few of the others. Before we move on, just quickly bring this up. Ziyech looks good when he's in a zone. Yeah, I agree with that. Ziyech, I think, is one of those, as we touched on, George, very much, if he's on it, he's great. But if he's not on it, he's awful. There doesn't seem to be an in-between with Hakim Ziyech. So we can kind of find a bit more of an in-between between kind of like good to on it. That would be great, because at the moment, he's either awful or he's great. Would have preferred Timo over Cho. I have to disagree with Phil X there. No chance for me, Timo. I think Timo's awful. I know the fans like him and he works hard, but Timo wouldn't have done anything that Callum did today. That's my thoughts on it. But George, we go 2 up pretty soon afterwards. Free kick whipped in by Mason Mount, and Thiago Silva gets his head on it. And again, another goal for him against Tottenham. That's 2 this season. 1 home and away, actually, but in both league games. And at that point, game's done and dusted.
Classic collapse from Spurs, really, wasn't it? I mean, they could, like they said, they set up to win the game in one particular fashion, which was to frustrate and then try and get something on the break. To be fair, it worked with the Kane example that we've explained, and they were unlucky with that. But yeah, it's 2 goals in quick succession. It's game over from then. I was very confident that once we got the second, it was game over, and we needed to get that. And again, it comes from a great delivery. And the delivery was really, really good today from Chelsea, considering the amount of corners and free kicks we had. There weren't many that didn't beat the near post. There were lots of good deliveries, both in play and from set plays today, which made the difference in the end, because the second goal killed the game, and it's from Mason Mount's ball. It's always a difficult one for the defenders or the keeper to deal with, because any touch from a defender, it goes in. Keeper can't dive till late, and it's Thiago Silva again popping up with a goal. Lovely.
Yeah, I mean, from there on, George, the game pretty much petered out. Spurs had one opportunity very near the end, Harry Kane header from a corner, which Kepa does well to save. Pretty much the only save that he made in the whole game, I'd say.
Yeah, he had nothing
literally had nothing to do at all today. Just had some quotes in from Thomas Tuchel on Hakim Ziyech, saying it was one of his best matches today because he was very reliable. To be fair, it was maybe his best position to be wide on the right wing. George, do you think it's any coincidence that today, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Hakim Ziyech, 2 players that have struggled this season in a lot of games, as soon as we seem to play more out-and-out wingers, they seem to look much, much better. For me, that's not a coincidence at all. And I've been calling out for this. I think the profile of forward players we've got, particularly Callum Hudson-Odoi, particularly Hakim Ziyech, particularly Christian Pulisic as well, these guys are out-and-out wide men. They're not these kind of nimble, sort of interchanging, narrow forwards as such. For me, they're out-and-out wide men. And it's no surprise that we had success going with 2 basically wingers today. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think people see it as like the old profile where you'd play a classic 4-4-2. You'd have penetrating wingers who hit the bar line, get crosses in regularly. But what's wrong with that? If we've got the profile of striker to handle that, which we do, he'd be a lot better if he got more delivery. We all know that, as critical as I've been of Lukaku. I know more balls into the box mean more chances for Lukaku. And why not? And I think, a left-footed winger should always be playing on the right-hand side for me for that exact thing. I know it's predictable, but we've touched on it. Hakim Ziyech's got the talent and the capability to still outdo players and get it onto that left foot. And it's much more dangerous coming in as an in-swinging cross. And yeah, I think sometimes you don't need to overcomplicate things in football. Sometimes it can be very, very simple. And having out-and-out wingers to deliver for a big target man in the middle, it works. It does work.
Yeah, no, mate, it 100% does. I mean, I'd like to see it continue. We've had a lot of success with out-and-out wingers over the years. Even when we played the 3 at the back with Antonio Conte, we still had, Pedro and Willian or Hazard, etc. They played, well, Pedro and Willian certainly played more as out-and-out wingers. So for me, it's something I'd like to see us continue with going forwards. I just feel it all gets a bit narrow when we start playing those 2, what you'd call inside 10s, basically. I just think it all gets a bit congested at the top end of the pitch. And there doesn't seem to be any width at the top end of the pitch when we play that. And you very much rely on the width that's created by the wing backs But then when those wing backs aren't there, and it's Alonso and Azpilicueta which don't provide the width, you end up with everything just going through the centre, and it's so congested, and there's no real outlet at the top end of the pitch. So I think actually this worked much better, and I preferred it to the 4-2-2-2, and it is something I'd like to see us kind of continue with going forwards. Do you think it will continue going forwards, or do you think this was very much kind of a bit of a one-off for this Tottenham game?
I don't think it is. I think once because of the form that we're in and the result we've had today, I think it is something that we'll see again. It's just whether we can mould the other players who didn't feature today, like a Pulisic or a Timo Werner, to be encouraged to do the same thing. Because I think Werner can be a very dangerous out-and-out winger with his pace. Pulisic's got the talent to do that as well, and his delivery is very good. So just need to get everyone on board playing the same way. At the moment, that's, like we said, the attacking line is probably the most in-form one we've got available. But in order to play that way, we have to get everyone on the same level. So, again, does it disrupt things if Havertz comes into the game? Does it disrupt things if Pulisic comes into the game? We're still a long way from it, but I think Chelsea need to be adaptable. Formational changes, they work for a certain amount of time, and then teams do find you out. So this gives us a new outlook, and I think it should be encouraged for future games, particularly with the result we got today.
I mean, do you think Thomas Tuchel's still stumbling? I know he's been here a year now. Do you think he's still working out what kind of the best system is for this group that he's got at the moment? Because we've seen 3-4-3 when he first come in, had a lot of success for it. But this season, we've seen a 3-4-3, we've seen 3-5-2, we've seen 4-2-2-2, we've seen kind of a 4-3-3 today. Do you think that very much suggests that he's still kind of finding his feet with what balance works best for the squad of players he's got?
Definitely. We've said it on the channel. I mean, you could have, you could have 5 different people come on the show and give their starting 11, their formation, and each one would be different. We've said that. And I think they even noted that on Soccer Saturday yesterday. I think Paul Merson was going on about you could have a different answer for the front three, a different case for each one. So if the fans are doing that, then certainly I think Thomas Tuchel still doesn't know what his best side is. I think he's almost there. But I think there's a few holes where he's still not sure. And as much as I encourage the changes, because like I've said, we need to be adaptable, it doesn't help rhythm necessarily, always changing formation, always changing personnel.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. And I think it's almost, I know we need the rest, but it's almost a shame that we haven't got a game now for a while. Because with that front four, front three or front four, you're going to include Mason Mount as well. They played really well today. So it would have been nice to have another game in a few days or so that we can kind of continue to bed them in. Because right now, that for me is our best attacking line at the moment. I know people might say, Kai Havertz should be playing, Timo Werner should be playing, or Pulisic should be playing, but ultimately they're not playing for a reason. I mean, I don't know what that reason is. Probably they haven't been good enough this season, but then again, not a lot of them have. But are you surprised, before we move into the Rangers, are you surprised that like the likes of Kai Havertz and Werner and Pulisic aren't really getting more of a look in at the moment? I mean, Havertz has hardly played in the last 3 or 4 games, neither's Werner. Pulisic's not played since the City game. Are you surprised these lads aren't getting more of a look in?
I'm not so surprised with Pulisic. I think he's had enough of a run out and haven't performed. But again, talent-wise, you'd say he's probably better than Hudson Odoi and a more established player. So you're surprised that he's not getting in front. The other two I honestly am. I think, Timo Werner, I'm surprised that he doesn't, as much as when he does come on, we don't see a lot of him. And he's had plenty of chances under Frank Lampard in the beginning with Thomas Tuchel. He really hasn't had a look in for a while in terms of just any substantial time on the pitch, which I'm confused, especially when a team's not doing well. You would expect these changes to happen. Similar with Kai Havertz. He hasn't done anything as wrong as, say, some of the others on the pitch who are doing equally not performing to standards. So I do sometimes feel for them and think, what must they be looking at to think, where can I get a look in if they see some of the performances of late and think that I can't get a look in and I get 10 minutes here or there. But like you said, mate, there's a reason for it. It's not just what we see in the match. It's training. It's what's best for the team in terms of the shape. It's not necessarily about an individual. Individual might be better, but it might not suit a system. So all these factors. And bottom line is, we love Thomas Tuchel. We have faith in Thomas Tuchel. So whatever he picks for a game, we trust him, I think is bottom line.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you, mate. Let's quickly bring up the Premier League table then. Really important win there. First win in 4 Premier League games. So great to get that one on the board. And with Man United winning, only a couple of games. They've still got a couple of games in hand. If we hadn't won today, they would have been breathing down our necks with a couple of wins. Tottenham still 4 games in hand on us, so a potential 12 points. They could still go ahead of us in that position. Arsenal with 3 games in hand. I'm not sure they can go ahead 36. No, not quite. They go within a couple of points. So, George, in the race for the top 4, which we're very much in now, today was really crucial as the table shows there.
Massive. And I said that, it's not a foregone conclusion that Chelsea would finish in the top 4, which we thought we would be at the start of the season. After this run, it's, we have to now focus. I'm still not worried about finishing in the top 4. I know we have to slightly look over our shoulder, but I still think the teams below that, you look at West Ham, Arsenal, just far too inconsistent. Even Spurs with the 4 games in hand, they're going to drop points. Even if they manage to overtake us at some stage, I still think they'll tail off. I think the only one there, I think that's probably how it's going to finish, mate. In all honesty, I think Manchester United, despite them being equally as poor, I think they've got the personnel to win matches like they did against West Ham. Just they've got the quality to find something. So I think that's exactly how it will finish, personally, in the exact same positions as it is. Maybe Tottenham slightly higher, but in terms of a top 4, I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, it was crucial today. We're not home and dry yet, but we're very much, solidified in that top 4. But we've got to keep picking the points up because these other teams around us will do that. So it's by no means a foregone conclusion. But yeah, today was massive in that top 4 race. You just got to beat those sides that are in and around you.
Yeah.
Right, let's get into these player ratings then, mate. I'll just bring it up on the screen. We'll start with obviously Kepa in goal, George. As we touched on earlier, he literally had nothing to do other than that save he made from the Harry Kane header from a corner right at the end. I can't remember Kepa making a save really. So it's another clean sheet for him. Great for his confidence. And in this period where we've not had Mendy at the Cup of Nations, we actually haven't missed him at all. It's quite hard to give Kepa a rating today, I suppose, because he didn't do anything. But apart from that one save he made, he had nothing to do. Yeah,
and good keepers are they show their quality when they have nothing to do, but still, make those crucial saves. And he did make one when Harry Kane had the header, a lovely save down to his left hand side. And yeah, he didn't. It's not even like he had goal kicks or anything because it didn't really go out for corners or we didn't have. I think a credit to the back 4 as well for keeping it quiet. It looks easy, but they've still got quality up in that final third. And no, like we've said before, mate, Kepa is a first choice goalkeeper. He's not a second choice. We just have Mendy, who's just even better. So I think Kepa's done an outstanding job. But I always, and we always had faith in him. We weren't concerned at all. He's a fantastic second number 1. I'm not even going to call him a number 2.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a rating today, mate, I'll probably give him a 7, to be honest. Made a good save. Was when he was called upon, which was hardly at all, as we said. He delivered, and yeah, I mean, I think a 7's fair. Wouldn't go much higher just because of the fact he didn't really have anything to do.
Yeah, I get that.
Moving on to Rudiger, I thought a good performance from Rudiger today. I thought the 2 centre backs were really good. Rudiger, great, defensively. Again, defensively, the guys didn't have an awful lot to do, but when called upon, they were decent. Rudiger with a great trademark run finds himself down in the corner flag on the wing, puts the ball into Lukaku, which I actually don't think Lukaku was expecting there. But I haven't seen that trademark 60-yard run from Rudiger for a few games. Defensively solid, George. And yeah, once again, he delivered. And, every day that goes by and the contract's not signed, it's just kind of like you worry a little bit more. You just really want him to stay.
Yeah, and he loves these sorts of games, doesn't he? Where it's a bit of a physical battle and it's a derby and there's rivalry and he gets in people's faces. And I just love that about Rudiger because, again, you need that. You need someone to be a bit more just in your face. That, again, Tottenham, that's why they don't win these big matches because they don't have those leaders who are just, prepared to get their hands dirty and get in the game, get stuck in. And Rudiger's one of those. And he epitomizes it perfectly. Entertaining to watch, but he does it in equal measure as being professional and incredibly sound at the back. David Luiz was incredibly entertaining to watch, but very rash. And I don't think Rudiger's like that. I think Rudiger's very, very calculated. And just gets it right before he goes over boiling point, makes a really professional challenge or, stays calm. So another fantastic performance from him.
What would you give him? 7, 8,
7, 8, yeah.
Yeah. Let's meet in the middle. I think a 7.5 is probably fair. George, moving on to Thiago Silva, the guy who defies his 37 years of age almost every time he steps on the pitch. We gave him a 9. I think we gave him a 9 out of 10 against Brighton. I thought today was exceptional again. Defended really well, gets his goal, uses every second of his experience that he's got in his football career to get that foul in inverted commas. Another really good performance from him again today, mate.
Yeah, gets the goal. There were moments where I thought he was a bit lucky. I agree with Gary Neville. I think he could have been in trouble. He made a few bad challenges when he was high up, getting caught out and had to make them. But a different referee might have given him a red card for some of those, because he did make a late one which got booked for, and then he made a couple of bad challenges where he was just kind of stopping the counter. But other than that, again, if the push isn't given as a foul, he looks like a tit, basically.
Yeah, he looks like a mug there.
But again, he's used his experience and knows he'll get the foul. So again, very intelligent play. And he, as much as people say that Spurs were poor today, it's still a battle in itself to keep someone like Harry Kane quiet.
Yeah.
And he did that fantastically well. So again, I couldn't give him I don't know. I don't think he. I wouldn't think an 8.
I think an 8's fair.
Yeah.
Because he said caught a couple of times,
he did score. He scored.
Fouls he scored as well. That's really why he gets a bit more than Rudiger for me. I think an 8. I think an 8's fair.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Azpilicueta. Look, we're big fans of Azpilicueta. Have been over the years. It's clear now. We've said it a number of times on the channel that it's this level. I think is perhaps starting to catch up with him a little bit. Having said that, in a back four today, he was a bit better. He didn't influence the game much going forward, didn't have an awful lot to do defensively, but I think just an average performance from him. Wasn't too exposed by the likes of Bergwijn or anyone like that. What did you make of Dave today? Because it was a bit of a kind of just, I can't really sum the performance up. I can't really, put my finger on it. I can't really find a word to describe it.
I think that's where we're at with him at the moment, because it's not his fault. He's playing in a position because we have our first choice injured. Ideally, he wouldn't be playing every game, and he's playing in a position which we know now because of his age, it's not his best suited position. But having said that, I think we have been slightly critical of him. I think he does give decent performances. Again, today was a decent performance. He's not doing anything that's outrageously bad. He's going to lack that ability to take on players or get balls into the box. But he's been fantastic for the club, and he again, these games suit him perfectly because he's a leader on the pitch. Gets stuck in, encourages others to get involved and create that intensity. So again, it's a luxury position to have him as a replacement for James. Let's be honest. I think other clubs would be very lucky to have him. So again,
I think it's 6.
6, yeah, 6 or 7.
Is 6 a bit high? 5.5. I think 6 is probably fair.
I think 6 is fair. I don't think it was any lower than that. I don't think he was awful today.
No, he wasn't. He didn't have an awful lot to do, to be honest.
No.
Let's move to the other side. Not really his favoured position, Malang Sarr, but we've seen in a couple of games this season he's played left back and he's looked decent on his 23rd birthday, and he fully justified his selection ahead of Marcos Alonso today. I thought he was really good today, Malang Sarr. Very lucky not to get injured from that Doherty challenge, which we covered earlier. I thought he looked good. He didn't get forward that much, but he made some great tackles, some good blocks, and defensively he kept the Tottenham attacking players pretty quiet. I thought a really solid performance from Sarr, and he's kind of been quite a find now this season, really, hasn't he? I guess perhaps not playing as much as fans would have expected him to play, but with these injuries, we've kind of unearthed him.
Yeah, we talk about players needing to step up, and how many more opportunities you're going to get, the likes of Loftus-Cheek and the like. They should be looking at Sarr as an example. He's come in and playing difficult matches. These aren't givens, and he's come in as if he's been a starter all along. And I think we could see more of him in that left back position. What he doesn't offer that Alonso obviously does is the ability to cross the ball in and get forward, but defensively much more sound. And I think again, really, I thought it was a good performance today from Sarr. I really do. I
think a 7 out of 10 is fair.
Yeah, I think 7 out of 10 as well.
7 out of 10 for Sarr. George, moving on to Jorginho then. Obviously, not the usual double six that we normally see. So Jorginho deployed today as a sole defensive midfielder, I guess, with Mount and Kovacic in the more advanced positions ahead of him. How do you feel Jorginho got on today, being the only defensive-minded midfield player playing?
It's hard to measure his performance because we were always going to control the game, and he showed that we were going to have more of the ball, and he did control the game. But I would personally like us to see take more risks. And I was slightly concerned when Kante wasn't starting, I have to say, based on what Jorginho offered last game against Brighton. But again, a safe option and probably the right call in a game of this nature where we needed to have control of the ball and frustrate them if they were to go on the counter attack. So I trust the decision, but it was more based on this game. But again, difficult to judge because I think his performances have been off at late, and I would like to see Chelsea do a bit more risk taking when we have the ball, when we get on the break or have it in those transitions. And I just think he's one of those players that's just never going to do that for us.
But I mean, he was replaced by Kante ultimately.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought he was average today, Jorginho, maybe a little bit above. I mean, I'm thinking 5.5 or 6. I'll let you have the casting vote. What do you reckon?
I think 5.5. I don't think he was better than saying. Yeah,
we'll go 5.5. Let's move forward then, George. Matteo Kovacic, obviously a favourite amongst Chelsea fans. He's performed really well this season. Deployed slightly further up the pitch than he has been normally. Normally sits alongside Jorginho or Kante in that pivot. How do you feel he fared today in a more advanced area of the pitch?
Not the best performance today from him, but I like the fact that he was more advanced because that's where I'd like to see him play. It's always difficult, particularly the way that Tottenham set up today, for him to really flourish in that attacking area. Because there's only the only time that we had space to really run at Spurs was when they overcommitted on the counter. Other than that, they were pretty well organised, and it's difficult to really get the ball going. But he's been good enough to start in recent games, and although the performance was slightly below par for his standards, I still think he put in an okay performance today.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd also prefer to see him slightly further up the pitch. I don't think playing as a defensive-minded midfield player is really his game. He can do that dirty work, but I think he's far better kind of trying to link midfield to attacking those transitions. He had that opportunity today. I didn't feel he was at his best. I'd probably say a 6.5 for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Moving on to Mason Mount, we both said that he deserved. Well, maybe not deserve is the right word, but he'd be a shoo-in to start this game. London derby. He's been our most consistent attacker this season, despite inconsistencies throughout the season so far. I thought he was really good today. Gets the assist for Thiago Silva with the corner. Particularly in that first 20-odd minutes, that interchange between him and Ziyech works really well, caused Spurs a lot of problems, and he was constantly getting in down that right-hand side. A goal would have capped off a really nice performance from him, but this was... I know there wasn't a goal to go with it. He did assist, as I said, but this was more of the kind of all-action, energetic displays from Mason Mount that we've become accustomed to.
Yeah, much better performance. And he's the type of player for these types of games. He's got to play. He's a big game player. He'll press. He'll work hard. And he really did hug that touchline and cause Sessegnon all sorts of problems early on in the match. He was very, very bright early on. Højbjerg and Sessegnon were having a bit of a mix-up of who's picking him up when he was running from deep. Got the quality, got the pace. Lovely delivery for the second goal as well, like we said. So I think he tailed off towards the end, but I do want to see him more in a central kind of 10 role. Because I think, like we said about Ziyech, he's really the only other player that's going to really create chances outside the box. So for me, I think he needs to play more of a central role going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I like him there. I like him a little bit deeper in midfield, like running on, like bursting forward. I'm not saying like an 8, like, Frank Lampard or something, but somewhere between an 8 and a 10, perhaps not quite a 10, but like somewhere between a 2. You'd almost want him to be like a 9.5, basically.
Yeah.
But obviously that doesn't really exist. But I definitely, rather than him playing in the front 3, I actually prefer him a little bit deeper. I just think he gets on the ball more and he's more effective, as we saw today. In terms of a rating, George, 7.5. What would you say?
I thought he was better than Kovacic, so I'd probably give him 7.5. I think he was good today, much better. Yeah,
let's go 7.5. Right, let's move on to Hakim Ziyech then. his best game in a Chelsea shirt, as we said at the top of the show, as Thomas Tuchel said afterwards. The goal was outstanding, as we said. Some of his passing was fantastic today. And he really did show what he's got in his locker as a footballer. We just don't see it consistently enough. But George, overall performance, best in a Chelsea shirt for you in his career so far, and probably on the pitch today.
Just trying to think of other games where he's performed well. Thought the Super Cup he was good.
It's not been a lot.
Yeah, it's not saying a lot, but it's definitely in the type of game it was, which was a must win for Chelsea against a side with a lot of history, and a game that you'd probably say on paper doesn't suit him physically because it is a physical affair, and it probably doesn't suit him with Tottenham setting up at a low block. But he embraced it, and he actually, for the first time, I saw him not just doing wonderful things in the final third, but he was tracking back brilliantly and made some great challenges on Kane as well that I saw in the game, which was a big change. And that's all I'm asking for him. I'm just asking him to do a little bit of the dirty work and then just express himself. And I know that's difficult because he's going to get a lot of stick for making the wrong decisions at times, but you need that luxury player who you just let them do what they want. And he showed that today. And I think he's gaining that confidence slowly by getting goals and things paying off for him. So I think a few weeks ago we said that Ziyech's done in a Chelsea shirt and he just doesn't suit this league.
But then the last couple of games, you sort of think, well, actually, maybe he can do it in this league. He's one of those. He's just like, you just don't know what you're going to get from him. But in the last couple of weeks, he has been a lot better. I mean, today, George, is a 9 outrageous? Is that too high to give him?
I think an 8. I don't think he was.
I don't think an 8.5. I thought he was. I think.
All right. Well, put it this way: he was the best player today. Best player.
Yeah.
Today,
oh, then he needs an 8.5. Then if Silva's an 8, then
fine.
Give him an 8.5. Obviously, Ziyech, I think, massively benefited from us going with more proper out and out wide players, and it's exactly the same on the other side. Callum Hudson-Odoi, I felt, really benefited from that as well. In the first half, frustrating as we touched on. So predictable. Every time he got it, he just cut inside. As soon as he tried something different, went on the outside of Tanganga, got him booked, and then he was all over him from there on in. And this was a really good performance from Callum. Some of the form that saw him lock down that left wing position for 8 or 9 starts on the spin. And if he can produce this form on a more consistent basis, then we really have got a good player on our hands. He's still 21, still developing. I definitely think currently, he's our best option on that left-hand side.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I've said at the beginning of the show, I'd like to see more of the other two in the same style of play, hugging the touchline and seeing what Pulisic and Timo can do. But on form, you'd have to say Hudson deserves to be there. He had his half chance early in the first half with that header that just hit the side netting, I think, from a good delivery as well. You just want him to take, he caused Tanganga all sorts of problems today, and he was lucky to stay on the pitch as well at times, I thought, with some of those late challenges. And that's just what you want from him. You want him to just take on players and just have the confidence. It's just like we've always said with him. It's just that last decision that he needs to make, in terms of shot making or that final pass, which is the hardest thing in football.
Yeah, that was better today, though. As you alluded to earlier, he actually goes for that cross-field pass to Ziyech, which perhaps he might not have gone for in other times, but. Callum's game by numbers today, 59 touches, 92% pass accuracy, 8 duels won, 4 fouls won, 3 take-ons, 2 crosses, 2 chances created, 1 shot and an assist. I think he did play well today. In terms of a rating, 8. Do you think he was better than Mount today?
I think he was, yeah. I think as a game as a whole, I thought he was, yeah. I think Mount was better in the first half. I don't think he was as good in the second half.
No, let's get an 8 for Callum Hudson-Odoi. And now to round out, George, we won't spend too long on Lukaku. We've talked a lot about him on the channel before. Compared to previous weeks, this was better. Compared to City and Brighton, the body language was better. He looked a bit more up for it. He worked a lot harder. I know these are basics as a professional football player, but considering what we have seen, that there are improvements on that aspect. Yes, in the first half, there's opportunities that he should do better with. He should be making a connection with the ball from that cross. I think, when your confidence is up and you're in form, you're connecting with that. When you're, not so confident and things aren't going your way, those sort of things happen. But as the game opened up as well, I thought, particularly in the second half, as Spurs went for it a bit more, he was a lot more involved, pinning those centre-backs back, getting involved in the play a lot more. Has a good shot that Lloris makes a good save from. This was I'd say this was more positive in compared to recent weeks from Lukaku. Still a lot more work to do, but an improvement.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those where you're at school and you give someone a report and you're clutching at straws a bit, but you have to think of the positives. Yeah, an improvement, I would say. I agree. Second half, he did do some things that we love to see about Lukaku, just rolling the defenders, getting it onto his stronger foot and just trying to shoot on goal. It's the first time we've really seen where he's been given the delivery that everyone's been crying for. So we can't be too critical in terms of that's his first opportunity to see how he could. And like you said, if he's in form, he might make that run a bit earlier. He might glance that header rather than just missing it. But I'm still clutching at straws in terms of the quality that he's offering. But that we've said on the channel, we have to persist. And I think he's got no hiding place now. If he gets delivery like that week in, week out, I think there's no hiding place now. Whether it's before, maybe the lack of crosses in the box or whatever, but they were there today. So if we continue to do that, we should see more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think having Ziyech and Callum Hudson-Odoi either side actually helps him out a lot more. Ziyech has got great delivery. And I think Callum's got good delivery as well. I think he's got, better delivery than Werner and Havertz, and at least as good as delivery as Pulisic, if not better. So I think these two players probably are best, in terms of delivering a football. I mean, Reece James is obviously very good and Chilwell's not bad, but in terms of the forward players, I think these two have got the best delivery. So I think that's a promising front three on the cards there, and one that I'd like to see more of going forward. In terms of a rating for Lukaku, mate, I'll probably say a 6 or a 6.5. I'll give you the casting vote on that. What do you reckon?
I would have gone lower. You know me. I would have probably said 5 because I think we gave him a 2 against City.
I think he was our worst player today.
All right. Yeah, okay.
6?
Yeah, good point. 6. That's being generous, I have to say.
I think, yeah, we'll get a 6. Definitely improved, but still a long way to go. I mean, obviously, that rounds out the player ratings. Hakim Ziyech, man of the match, best game in a Chelsea shirt. Thiago Silva, another standout performer, along with obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount. As always, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments and in the chat if you agree or disagree with those ratings. And George, in beating Tottenham today, Chelsea became the first London team to amass over 500 points in London derbies. 501 points now from 272 derbies. So a not nice little milestone there. Back to winning ways. And unfortunately now it's the January international break. No game until the 5th of February where we take on Plymouth in the FA Cup before heading out to the Club World Cup, hopefully to add that trophy to the cabinet, because Rafa Benitez fucked that last time we were there. So hopefully this time we can put that right by getting that win we deserve. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in live as always. And if you're going to watch it back, hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching back. Thank you for all your support as always. As I said at the top of the show, please do smash a like on this video. Please do click that subscribe button. We're on the road to 300 subscribers by the end of the month. We're almost there. So all the support is appreciated. If you're watching now and you're not subscribed, just click that subscribe button. It really helps us out. And it'll take you less than 30 seconds to do. So please do that. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. Up the Chelsea. And we'll catch you soon, guys. Cheers.